Driverly.com, unlimited drama series.
The champagne flute slipped from my hand, shattering against the marble floor of the Riverside Country Club. But nobody noticed the broken glass. Every single person in that ballroom was staring at Amanda Crawford, my girlfriend of 3 years, as she screamed the words that would change everything. "You'd never be a good husband, Thomas. I'm not marrying you." The silence that followed was deafening. 200 guests at her company's annual gala, frozen in place, their conversations dying mid-sentence. The string quartet in the corner actually stopped playing. I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears as Amanda stood there, her face flushed with anger and something else, something that looked almost like relief. I'm Thomas Mercer, 34 years old, a custom home builder who's spent the last decade creating dream houses for other people while living in a nightmare of my own making. I should have seen this coming. The signs were all there, written in late-night phone calls, mysterious business trips, and the way Amanda had started looking at me like I was a piece of furniture she was tired of dusting. But standing there in my rented tuxedo, watching the woman I'd planned to propose to next month destroy me in front of half the city's elite, I felt something unexpected wash over me. Not anger, not embarrassment, relief. "Thomas, say something," Amanda demanded, her voice cutting through the silence like a blade. Her emerald dress, the one I'd helped her pick out, caught the light from the crystal chandelier above us. She looked beautiful and terrible all at once. I looked at her calmly, taking in every detail of this moment. The way her mother, Patricia Crawford, stood behind her with her mouth hanging open. The way Amanda's co-workers from Morrison Tech Solutions had formed a perfect circle around us, like spectators at a gladiator match. The way her best friend Rachel Walsh was trying to blend into the wallpaper, her face pale with secondhand embarrassment. "Thomas!" Amanda's voice rose another octave. "Are you going to stand there like a statue, or are you going to fight for us?" That's when I realized something profound. I didn't want to fight for us. I didn't want to grovel or beg or make excuses for whatever imaginary crime had triggered this public execution. For the first time in 3 years, I felt completely free. I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out the small velvet box I'd been carrying around for weeks, waiting for the perfect moment. Amanda's eyes widened as she saw it. The crowd leaned forward collectively, sensing drama. Instead of dropping to one knee, I set the box gently on the nearest table and looked Amanda straight in the eyes. "Thank you," I said quietly. Then I turned and walked away. The murmur that erupted behind me was like a dam bursting. Voices overlapping, exclamations of shock. The sound of heels clicking against marble as people rushed to get closer to the scene. But I didn't look back. I walked through that ballroom with my head held high, past the ice sculptures and the 5-tier cake, and the photographer who was probably getting the shots of his career. The valet brought my truck around, a beat-up Ford F-15. Oh, that looked ridiculously out of place among the BMWs and Mercedes in the country club's circular drive. As I climbed behind the wheel, I caught a glimpse of Amanda through the ballroom's floor-to-ceiling windows. She was standing exactly where I'd left her, still holding court in the center of that crowd, but something had changed in her posture. She looked smaller somehow. I drove without destination, letting muscle memory guide me through the familiar streets of our mid-sized Maine town. Past the harbor where we'd had our first date, past the coffee shop where she used to meet me every Saturday morning, past the house I'd been renovating on Elm Street where I'd imagined us living someday. My phone started buzzing before I'd made it 2 miles. Amanda's name flashed on the screen again and again. Then text messages started flooding in. "Thomas, come back. We need to talk. I didn't mean it. I was just scared. Please don't do this to us. I love you. Please." Each message made me feel lighter. For 3 years, I'd been walking on eggshells around Amanda Crawford, trying to anticipate her moods, trying to be the man she wanted me to be. Tonight, she'd shown me exactly what she thought of those efforts, and in doing so, she'd set me free. I ended up at Murphy's Tavern on the outskirts of town, a dive bar where construction workers and fishermen went to forget their troubles. Pete Murphy, the owner, was behind the bar as always, his weathered face breaking into a grin when he saw me walk in. "Tommy boy, Fancy seeing you here on a Friday night. Thought you had some hoity-toity party to attend. I did, I said, settling onto a bar stool. It ended early. Pete poured me a beer without being asked. He'd known me since I was 18, fresh out of high school and working my first construction job. He had a talent for reading people's moods and knowing when to talk and when to stay quiet. Rough night? He asked, sliding the glass across the bar. Actually, I said, taking a long drink, it might have been the best night of my life. My phone continued buzzing throughout the evening, but I ignored it. Whatever Amanda had to say, whatever explanations or apologies or threats she wanted to deliver could wait. For the first time in years, I was exactly where I wanted to be, doing exactly what I wanted to do. It was nearly midnight when a new message appeared on my screen. This one wasn't from Amanda. It was from Rachel Walsh, Amanda's best friend and maid of honor at the wedding that would never happen. Thomas, do you have any idea what happened after you left? I stared at the message for a long moment, my finger hovering over the keyboard. Part of me didn't want to know. Part of me wanted to delete the message and drive home to my empty apartment and start figuring out what came next. But curiosity won out. Tell me, I typed back. The response came immediately, as if Rachel had been waiting by her phone. Can we meet somewhere? This isn't something I can explain over text. 20 minutes later, Rachel walked into Murphy's Tavern, looking like she'd rather be anywhere else on earth. Her usually perfect blonde hair was disheveled, and she'd changed out of her cocktail dress into jeans and a sweater. She spotted me at the bar and made her way over, her heels clicking nervously against the wooden floor. I can't believe I'm here, she said, sliding onto the bar stool next to mine. Amanda would lose her mind if she knew I was talking to you. Then why are you? I asked. Rachel signaled Pete for a drink, whiskey, neat, and downed it in one gulp before answering. Because what happened tonight was wrong. What she did to you was wrong. And what happened after you left? She shook her head. I've been Amanda's friend for 15 years, but I've never been more ashamed to know her. Pete refilled Rachel's glass without being asked, then retreated to the other end of the bar to give us privacy. Tell me, I said again. Rachel took a smaller sip this time, gathering her courage. The second you walked out, everything changed. At first, people were just shocked. Nobody knew what to say. But then Amanda's mother stepped forward. I could picture Patricia Crawford, Amanda's steel magnolia mother, who'd never thought I was good enough for her daughter anyway. What did she say? She asked Amanda what she'd just done. Not angry, not upset, just confused. Like she genuinely couldn't understand why Amanda had just humiliated the man who'd been nothing but good to her for 3 years. Rachel paused, staring into her whiskey glass. And Amanda couldn't answer. She just stood there, looking around the room like she was waiting for someone to applaud or something. But nobody did. Nobody said a word. I tried to imagine the scene. Amanda, so confident in her moment of dramatic rejection, suddenly realizing that the audience wasn't on her side. Then what? Then people started walking away, not making a scene, not saying anything nasty. They just left, one by one, until Amanda was standing in the middle of this huge ballroom with maybe 20 people around her. And most of those were her coworkers, who couldn't leave because it was their company party. Rachel finished her second whiskey and signaled for a third. I'd never seen her drink like this before. She was usually the responsible one in Amanda's friend group, the designated driver, the voice of reason. Her boss, Mr. Morrison, came over and asked if she was feeling all right. Said maybe she should go home and rest. It wasn't a suggestion. She got fired. Not fired exactly, but sent home from her own company's biggest event of the year, in front of clients and board members. Her career at Morrison Tech is over, even if they don't make it official for a while. I should have felt satisfaction at that news, but instead I felt something closer to pity. Amanda had worked hard to build her reputation in the tech industry. To throw it away for a moment of dramatic theater seemed almost tragic. There's more, Rachel continued. After Mr. Morrison left, Amanda broke down, started crying, saying she'd made a mistake, that she needed to find you and fix things. But when she looked around for support, for someone to tell her it would be okay, nobody was there. Nobody. Even her mother had left. I was the only one still standing with her, and honestly, I was only there because I felt sorry for her, not because I thought she deserved support. Rachel's third whiskey arrived, but she didn't touch it. Instead, she turned to face me directly. Thomas, I need you to understand something. What Amanda did tonight wasn't spontaneous. She's been planning this for weeks. The words hit me like a physical blow. Planning it? She's been telling people that she was going to break up with you publicly. Said you needed to be taught a lesson about taking her for granted. She thought it would be empowering or something. A grand gesture that would show everyone how strong and independent she was. I felt my hands clench into fists, then forced them to relax. And you knew about this? I tried to talk her out of it, Rachel said quickly. We all did. Chloe, Marcy, even her sister Jennifer. We told her it was cruel and unnecessary. That if she wanted to end things with you, she should do it privately, like an adult. But she didn't listen. She said we didn't understand. That you'd been coasting in the relationship. That you needed a wake-up call. She actually thought you'd fight for her. Thought you'd make some grand romantic gesture to win her back in front of everyone. The picture was becoming clearer now. Amanda had orchestrated the entire scene, expecting me to play the role of the desperate boyfriend, begging for another chance. Instead, I'd thanked her and walked away, leaving her standing alone in front of 200 witnesses to her cruelty. She called me about an hour ago, Rachel continued, hysterical, saying she'd made the biggest mistake of her life, asking if I thought you'd forgive her. What did you tell her? Rachel met my eyes, and I saw something I'd never seen from any of Amanda's friends before. Genuine respect. I told her that good men don't come back after being humiliated like that. I told her that she'd just destroyed the best relationship she'd ever had for the sake of a stupid power play. And I told her that if I were you, I'd run as far and as fast as I could. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of the evening settling between us. Outside, I could hear the distant sound of traffic and the occasional laugh from the tavern's other patrons. Normal sounds from a normal Friday night in a normal town where most people didn't destroy their lives for the sake of drama. There's something else, Rachel said finally. Something you need to know before you decide what to do next. I waited. Amanda's been seeing someone else for about 2 months now. Some guy from her yoga class named Derek. Rich, drives a fancy car, tells her she's too good for small-town life. The revelation should have hurt, but instead, it just completed the puzzle. Amanda's recent distance, her criticism of my career, her sudden dissatisfaction with everything we'd built together, it all made sense now. Does he know about tonight? Oh, he knows. He was there. Saw the whole thing. And? Rachel's smile was bitter. He left right after you did. Didn't say a word to Amanda, didn't try to comfort her. Just walked out like he'd never seen her before in his life. I couldn't help but laugh. It wasn't a happy sound, but it was genuine. Amanda had blown up her life for a man who'd abandoned her the moment things got messy. The irony was almost perfect. So where does that leave her now? Alone, Rachel said simply. Completely alone. Her mother isn't speaking to her. Her boss thinks she's unstable. Her boyfriend proved he's a coward. And her friends... She shrugged. Let's just say the group chat has been very quiet since tonight. I finished my beer and stood up, leaving money on the bar for both our drinks. The conversation had given me everything I needed to know. Amanda's public humiliation hadn't been a moment of passion or fear. It had been a calculated attack designed to break me down and rebuild me according to her specifications. The fact that it had backfired so spectacularly was just poetic justice. Rachel, I said as I prepared to leave, thank you for telling me all this. I know it wasn't easy. She nodded, still staring into her untouched whiskey. For what it's worth, Thomas, I'm sorry. About all of it. You deserved better. Yes, I said, surprising myself with how confident I sounded. I did. Saturday morning arrived gray and drizzly, typical Maine weather that matched my mood perfectly. I woke up in my small apartment above the hardware store I'd been renting since moving out of the house Amanda and I had shared. The place was sparse, just the essentials I'd grabbed when I left 6 months ago after our first major fight about commitment and future planning. My phone showed 47 missed calls and 63 text messages, all from Amanda. I deleted them without reading and made coffee instead. The knock on my door came at exactly 9 a.m. I knew it would be Amanda before I opened it.
90 days of calls to the same number. You bought a burner for her.
Give it to me.
One reason not to drop it.
Watch more on Grammarly.com.
She was nothing if not predictable in her timing. She stood in the hallway wearing the same emerald dress from last night, now wrinkled and stained. Her makeup was smeared, her hair a mess. She looked like she hadn't slept. Thomas, please, we need to talk. I leaned against the doorframe, not inviting her in. I think you said everything you needed to say last night. I was wrong. I was scared and stupid and wrong. Please, just let me explain. Explain what? How you've been planning to humiliate me for weeks? How you've been cheating on me with some guy from your yoga class? How you thought destroying me publicly would somehow make me a better boyfriend? Her face went white. Rachel told you. Rachel told me the truth. Something you haven't done in months. Amanda's composure cracked completely. She started crying. Not the delicate tears she used when she wanted sympathy, but ugly, desperate sobs that shook her entire body. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. Derek said you'd fight for me. He said it would make you realize what you were losing and you'd step up and what? Propose to you right there in front of everyone? Make some grand romantic gesture that would erase the fact that you just called me worthless? I never called you worthless. You said I'd never be a good husband. In front of 200 people? What exactly did you think that meant? She tried to push past me into the apartment, but I blocked her way. Thomas, please, I love you. I've always loved you. This whole thing with Derek, it was just because I felt like we were stuck. Like nothing was changing or growing between us. So you decided to blow everything up instead of talking to me about it. I tried to talk to you, but you never listen. You're always working on some project or helping some friend or building the life you said you wanted, I interrupted. The house on Elm Street that I've been renovating for us. The business I've been growing so we could afford the wedding you kept hinting about. The future I've been working toward every single day for 3 years. Amanda's crying intensified. I know you've been working hard, but it felt like you were working towards some version of me that doesn't exist. Like, you had this idea of who I was supposed to be, and you were just waiting for me to become her. There was probably some truth in that accusation, but I was past the point of caring about relationship psychology. What do you want from me, Amanda? I want another chance. I want to fix this. Derek is nothing. He ran away the second things got complicated. You're the one I want to be with. You're the one I want to marry. I looked at her standing there in my hallway, desperate and broken, and felt absolutely nothing. No anger, no love, no pity. Just emptiness, where 3 years of emotion used to live. The answer's no. Thomas, the answer's no. What you did last night wasn't a mistake or a moment of panic. It was who you really are when you think nobody's watching, and I finally saw it. I started to close the door, but Amanda grabbed the frame. Please don't do this. Please don't throw away everything we built together. You already threw it away. I'm just accepting the loss. This time I did close the door, and I turned the deadbolt for good measure. Amanda pounded on it for about 5 minutes, alternating between apologies and demands, before finally giving up. I heard her footsteps retreating down the hallway and her car starting in the parking lot below. The rest of Saturday passed quietly. I worked on some sketches for a new project, did laundry, and tried to figure out what my life looked like now that it didn't revolve around Amanda Crawford. It was a strange feeling, like waking up in a house where all the furniture had been rearranged overnight. Sunday brought a different kind of visitor. Patricia Crawford, Amanda's mother, arrived at noon carrying a casserole dish and wearing the kind of determined expression that suggested she wasn't leaving without saying her piece. "Mrs. Crawford," I said, opening the door wider than I had for Amanda. Patricia had always been civil to me, even if she'd made it clear that her daughter could do better. "Thomas, may I come in?" I gestured her toward the small dining table. She set down the casserole, some kind of chicken and rice dish that smelled like comfort and normalcy, and took a seat across from me. "I came to apologize," she said without preamble, "for my daughter's behavior on Friday night, and for my own behavior over the past 3 years. That surprised me." "Your behavior? I never gave you a fair chance. I had ideas about the kind of man Amanda should marry. Someone with a college degree, someone in a white-collar profession, someone who moved in the same social circles we do. I never looked past those superficial things to see who you actually were." She paused, studying my face. "Friday night opened my eyes. When Amanda destroyed you publicly, you didn't retaliate. You didn't call her names or try to hurt her back. You just walked away with dignity. That told me more about your character than 3 years of polite dinner conversation ever did." I didn't know what to say to that, so I stayed quiet. "Amanda came to see me yesterday morning. She wanted me to talk to you, to convince you to give her another chance. She seemed to think I had some kind of influence with you." "What did you tell her?" "I told her that she'd made her choice, and now she had to live with the consequences. I told her that good men don't grow on trees, and she'd just chop down the best one she was ever likely to find." Patricia reached across the table and patted my hand. "I also told her that if I were you, I wouldn't take her back either. What she did was unforgivable." We talked for another hour about everything and nothing. Patricia told me about her own marriage, about the mistakes she'd made and the lessons she'd learned too late to help her daughter. She asked about my work, my family, my plans for the future. It was the first real conversation we'd ever had, and it left me with a strange sense of closure. After she left, I heated up some of her casserole and ate it while watching the Patriots game. It was good, better than anything Amanda had ever cooked for me. The irony wasn't lost on me that her mother was a better partner to me in 2 hours than Amanda had been in 3 years. Monday morning brought me back to reality. I had a business to run and projects to finish. The house on Elm Street wasn't going to renovate itself, and my client was expecting updates on the timeline. Work had always been my refuge, and now it became my salvation. The job site was buzzing with activity when I arrived. My crew, 4 guys I'd known for years, were already hard at work on the kitchen renovation. But something felt different. Conversation stopped when I walked by. People were looking at me with expressions I couldn't quite read. It was Jake Morrison, my lead carpenter, who finally broke the ice. "Hey, boss," he said, setting down his nail gun. "Heard you had an interesting weekend." Word traveled fast in a town this size, especially when it involved a public spectacle at the country club. I'd been expecting this conversation. "Interesting is one word for it," I said. "For what it's worth," Jake continued, "we all think Amanda Crawford is crazy. You're better off without her." The other guys nodded in agreement. Mike Chen, my electrician, spoke up from across the room. "My wife was at that party Friday night. She said what Amanda did was the most embarrassing thing she'd ever seen. Said you handled it like a gentleman." "Thanks, guys. I appreciate the support. But let's try to keep the focus on work, okay?" They agreed, but I could tell the story was far from over. In a town where everyone knew everyone else's business, Amanda's public meltdown was going to be the topic of conversation for weeks to come. Around lunchtime, I got a call from an unexpected source, Derek Phillips, Amanda's yoga instructor and secret boyfriend. His voice was nervous, almost shaky. "Thomas, this is Derek Phillips. I think we should talk. I don't think we have anything to discuss. Please just hear me out. What happened Friday night? It wasn't supposed to go like that." Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet him at a coffee shop downtown. Derek turned out to be exactly what I'd expected. Tall, tan, and polished, in the way that suggested he'd never done a day of manual labor in his life. He drove a silver BMW and wore a watch that probably cost more than I made in a month. "I want you to know that I had nothing to do with what Amanda said to you," he began before I'd even sat down. I told her to break up with you privately if that's what she wanted. The public humiliation thing was all her idea. And yet you were there to watch the show. Derek had the grace to look ashamed. She said she was going to end things with you that night. I thought she meant she was going to pull you aside and have a conversation. When she started screaming at you in front of everyone, I was as shocked as anybody. Shocked enough to leave her standing there alone. Look, I know how that looked, but I'm not ready for that kind of drama in my life. I teach yoga and run a small wellness business. I can't afford to be associated with public scenes and emotional breakdowns. I almost laughed. So you're telling me that you encouraged Amanda to leave me for you, but the second things got messy, you bailed? It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. You wanted the fun parts of an affair without any of the consequences. And when Amanda proved she was willing to destroy people for your entertainment, you realized you might be next. Derek's face reddened. She's been calling me nonstop since Friday night, saying she made a mistake, that she wants to work things out with you. But she also keeps asking when we can get back together. The woman is completely unstable. The woman you were sleeping with behind my back for 2 months. That was different. That was just physical. It didn't mean anything. I stood up to leave. This conversation was pointless, and Derek was even more pathetic than I'd imagined. Wait, he said, grabbing my arm. There's something else you should know. Amanda's been telling people that you were abusive, that you controlled her money and isolated her from her friends. She's trying to rewrite history to make herself look like the victim. The words hit me like a slap. That's a lie. I know it's a lie, but she's convincing and people want to believe her because it makes Friday night seem more justified. I thought you should know what you're up against. I drove back to the job site in a daze. Amanda wasn't content to just destroy our relationship. She was trying to destroy my reputation as well. In a small town where word of mouth could make or break a business, accusations of abuse could ruin me completely. That evening, I called Rachel Walsh. If Amanda was spreading lies about me, I needed to know how far they'd traveled and who was believing them. Thomas? Rachel sounded surprised to hear from me. Is everything okay? I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Is Amanda telling people I was abusive? There was a long pause. She mentioned some things to a few people. Nothing specific, just implications. What kind of implications? She said you had anger issues, that you made her feel like she couldn't be herself around you, that you were jealous and possessive. I felt my stomach drop. And people believed her? Some did. Others remembered how you acted Friday night, how calm you were, how you didn't try to hurt her back. It's hard to believe someone is abusive when they respond to public humiliation with dignity. But some people believed her. Thomas, I'm going to be straight with you. Amanda is scared. She knows she messed up badly, and she's trying to control the narrative. She thinks if she can make people believe you were a bad boyfriend, it will justify what she did. And is it working? With some people, yes, but not with anyone who matters. Her mother doesn't believe it. Her boss doesn't believe it. Most of her real friends don't believe it. She's mainly convincing people who already didn't like you or who love drama more than truth. It was small comfort, but it was something. I thanked Rachel and hung up, then spent the rest of the evening thinking about damage control. If Amanda wanted to play dirty, I needed to be prepared to defend myself. Tuesday brought a new development. I was reviewing blueprints in my office when my phone rang. The caller ID showed a number I didn't recognize. Thomas Mercer Construction. Mr. Mercer? This is Jennifer Crawford, Amanda's sister. Could we meet for coffee sometime today? There are some things you need to know. Jennifer was 2 years younger than Amanda, and had always been the more level-headed of the Crawford sisters. She worked as a nurse at the local hospital, and had a reputation for being direct and honest. If she wanted to talk to me, it was probably important. We met at the same coffee shop where I'd talked to Derek, but the conversation couldn't have been more different. Jennifer got straight to the point. Amanda's having a breakdown, she said, a real one. She's been staying at my place since Friday night because she can't face going home. She's not eating, barely sleeping, and she's become obsessed with the idea that she can fix things with you. That's not my problem anymore. I know, and I'm not here to ask you to take her back. I'm here to warn you that she's not thinking rationally right now. She's talking about grand gestures and public apologies. She even mentioned showing up at one of your job sites to declare her love in front of your crew. The thought made me cringe. Can you stop her? I'm trying, but she's not listening to anyone right now. She's convinced that if she just finds the right words or makes the right gesture, you'll forgive her. Jennifer leaned forward, her expression serious. Thomas, I need you to understand something. What Amanda did to you Friday night was wrong. Completely unforgivably wrong. But she's my sister, and I'm worried about what she might do to herself if this continues. Are you saying she's suicidal? I'm saying she's desperate. And desperate people do unpredictable things. I'm asking you to be careful, and to call me if she contacts you or shows up anywhere she shouldn't be. I promised to keep Jennifer informed, and we exchanged phone numbers. As I drove back to work, I couldn't shake the feeling that Amanda's breakdown was just the beginning of my problems, not.